Well, Hitesh, thanks for sketching out some questions for us.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Policy Pearls, the insurance podcast for today's generation, where we'll keep on discussing about insurance and its benefit, and will help today's generation to understand insurance in their language. And in the first episode, I wanted to invite the two elephants of insurance. So one is staying in US, uh, insurance elephant, Mr. Patrick Callan, and the other elephant is staying in India, Mr. Hari Radhakrishnan. We have seen both of them on LinkedIn. They are very active in insurance world, and we have seen, and people like me learn a lot about insurance from the post which you share on your LinkedIn. I have learned a lot of things about commercial insurance from Hari sir's regular LinkedIn post, and a lot about PNC insurance from Patrick sir's post. So yes, we are learner. Just still we are learners in the industry, and I'd like to welcome both of you in the podcast. Welcome Patrick sir. Welcome Hari sir.
Thank you, Hitesh.
Thanks, Hitesh. Hmm. Well, there
So
is
the
only one elephant that is Patrick. He's the insurance agent.
So the in to start, I would just and the viewers also just like to know about your journey in insurance, and what are the problems you have faced and how you have solved. So a quick introduction, or a quick brief on your journey in insurance sector, Patrick sir and Hari sir.
Okay, I'll step in. I'm the new man to the Indian market. Um, More than 20 years of insurance, direct insurance experience in claims, service, etc. In the PNC market in the United States with a large U.S. carrier. But I've been in customer service roles pretty much all my career, and response to problems type of roles. So when I left that carrier and I began to interact with LinkedIn, then I really was exposed to how insurance is dealt with across the globe, and it continues to be a daily education for me. So my background, kind of traditional Western involvement in businesses, but what I realize is every day that I learn something, I also learn that there are many things I don't know. So my involvement with Hitesh began a couple of years ago when we agreed to mentor each other in the insurance world. Hitesh mentoring me and how the Indian insurance world functions, and vice versa for me, how things in the big picture. So it's been a really good journey and continues to be. I had the pleasure of visiting India in February. Got a little taste of the culture, the environment, and the curry, and that education goes on. So thank you, Hitesh, for inviting me to this podcast.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks,
Hari sir.
Pat. Yeah, I'll go with my introduction. This is my 34th year in insurance. I started way back in 1989. I joined a government-owned insurance company as a officer there, and taking care of claims and writing. It was a journalist role. There used to be no differentiation between underwriting, claims, and other departments. You used to do everything. So from there, I moved into the private sector insurance company in 2002 when the market was opened up for private sector participation in the insurance market. Before that, it was nationalized insurance setup in India. And I worked for about 3 years in that company, then switched over to another company. So around 15 years in the private insurance company in the role of underwriting and risk engineering. And then I moved into broking in 2018. For the last 5 years, I'm into broking. So I have seen both sides, the broking side as well as the underwriting and reinsurance side as well. So it has been a fantastic journey for me so far in the industry. I have been able to learn a lot, and I'm still learning. It's a great industry to be in. There are a lot of knowledgeable people around. So through osmosis, you can sort of learn a lot from others. You post something, you say something, then there are others who give a different viewpoint. So you get to learn from them. Yes, it is a fantastic experience so far, and that's how it has been for me so far. Over to you, Hitesh.
Thank you, Patrick sir and Hari sir, for the quick introduction. Just for all the viewers, Patrick sir, can you give an overview on the global trends in insurance claims? Because we wanted to start with the insurance claims, and so can you give a brief on what is happening on the insurance claims around the globe?
Sure. There's a large separation or dichotomy between developed or Western insurance, U.S., Europe, etc., and much of the rest of the globe. Insurance is such a large business, almost $7 trillion, and claims represents about 70% of how that money is spent. So no matter what, claims exist and get paid. But right now, we talk about insurtech and such, but insurance as a business is so large that things can't change overnight. So if we look at how changes are being pushed by insurance company with virtual and digital changes, that is more focused in the insurance carriers than it is for the customers, because customers remain somewhat uneducated on how insurance works. So changing their expectations won't happen at the flip of a switch or changing ones and zeros. For example, within India, there's a big push to grow the penetration of insurance from 3 or 4% to a higher percent. But the change still has to come from education and trust. So how does the insurance world change that? That's a bigger question than we might be able to necessarily answer here. But the biggest changes I see within the carriers are digitization of processes. All right, it starts with OCR and moving unstructured data to structured. But I think probably the biggest change is an acceptance that there has to be change. Right? We go to conferences and such, and everybody talks about changes of innovation and such. Well, what do the customers need? And that's the piece that we need to start seeing change on. And I do see some of that. This podcast's target audience is a great example with the demographic that we're focusing on, where digital natives are coming into the insurance world. And what's their expectation? Their expectation is being able to access insurance and claims via an app or a website or other digital tools. So that's probably the most significant change I see. We have developments in Africa, for example, with PayU, where you can get your insurance claim and your service directly through an app and clicking a button, or accessing WhatsApp chatbots in Kenya through MotorSure, or a company in Mexico City that uses facial recognition to allow immediate implementation of a claim. But again, our big challenge is, how do we build the trust that's needed to allow these tools to be used? So I think those are the biggest parts. There is change, but we need to change customer outlooks. Thank you. Yeah,
You're on mute, Hitesh.
yeah, Hitesh, you're on mute.
Hari sir, how do you see the difference between the international and Indian market in terms of claims and the processes?
So India, the digitalization journey has begun, but it hasn't reached a certain level of maturity. There are two parts of the digitalization. One is, the workflow part, and then the substantive part of analytics and getting into the core claims aspect. So this is how I would like to differentiate. On the workflow part, a lot of digitalization has happened. For instance, you get SMSs for when your claim is settled or reported. So those kinds of applications have come in. A lot of hard copies are getting dispensed with. So now the documentations can be scanned and uploaded. So a lot of such physical movement of files and papers and those kind of drawbacks which are there in the traditional claims processing have been achieved to a large extent. But on the substantive part, that is analytics, that is where the challenges are still there. So, for instance, you want to apply AI and make an assessment of the claim, or you do some predictive analytics and those sort of applications. So that is where it is still work in progress. Not much of maturity has happened, and it's still quite some. I mean, a bit of more time is required for it to reach a level of maturity.
Thank you, Hari sir, for giving your points on this. Patrick sir, what are the differences you have noticed in insurance claims? How insurance claims are handled internationally?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question because it goes back to institutional and customer trust. Say, for example, you have a commercial claim, a fire at a factory in the US. The focus is on assessment, developing a cost for the claim, and resolution of the physical damage. If you contrast that with what I've observed in some other markets, for example, a recent fire at a factory in India, there's a need to establish trust between the parties, that the company putting the claim in needs to prove a little bit that they are doing business in a above board manner, because over many decades there has developed somewhat of a I don't want to say a resistance. So it's the maturity of trust that I see between more established markets and developing markets. And it's not that one's good or bad. For example, this factory in India, they needed to supply more than 40 documents, many of which have nothing to do with a claim. They have to do with establishing legitimacy of how their business is run. And that's an important piece of how that environment within the market will build. The more trust is built, the easier a claim resolution is made. If you contrast that with China, for example, where they've established, from greenfield up, digital methods for people to institute claims. And I'm not saying super large claims, but their ecosystem was built from ground zero and has now become hundreds and hundreds of billions of transactions each year that are primarily digital. So again, working from education and trust will move to building confidence in digital methods. So the tools are the same between established markets and the emerging markets. It's the education and trust piece that becomes the big need for change. And we get past mis-selling, we get past all of that. If a customer puts a claim in and accesses a really smart claim person like Hari, who, by the way, is probably one of the most comprehensively trained persons I've ever encountered in the international market. I don't want to make you embarrassed or anything, Hari. The knowledge is there in many of these markets. It's the trust factor, Hitesh, that we need to build on to increase, straight through processing on claims. So that's the biggest difference I see internationally.
So the continuing with the trust as one of the factor uh, in managing the claims, or it's a challenge which we are seeing here. Harisa, what are some of can you put some light on some more challenges which the Indian insurance industry is facing in terms of insurance claims?
See, first of all, the challenges Patrick has already alluded to. There is a challenge of underpenetration of insurance. So the penetration levels are far lower than the international markets which are developed. So, and again, there is another subset of that challenge. The penetration, whatever is there, that is concentrated in the metro tier 1 cities and tier 2 cities, and also in the industrialized states. In the non-industrialized and rural states, predominantly in the northern and eastern part of the country, the penetration is even lower. So there is a huge disparity of the available penetration itself. So when we talk of 1% penetration for non-life insurance in India, that 1% is not 1% everywhere. Some places it is very low, and some places it is higher than 1%. 1% is an average. So there is a trust issue which Patrick has already pointed out in terms of people not trusting insurance well, and therefore the lack of trust permeates into claims also. So the claims processes also suffer from a lack of trust. So this results in the documentation getting lengthy. A lot of documents and paperwork are asked for. So the customers are not happy submitting a lot of such information. The insurers want to ensure that there is no fraud or no undue payment is being made. So they want to have everything clean. The customer is suspecting of these demands for papers and documents and justifications being asked at the time of claim, whereas the buying was relatively smooth and no questions were asked, but there are 1,000 questions asked at the time of claim. All these are issues of lack of understanding or lack of education, as Patrick earlier mentioned. So as the market develops, when people become more aware of the insurance process, how is underwriting done, how is claims done, why certain documents are being asked, why certain processes are being followed, uh, those those issues will also reduce. And there is another aspect to it. Sometimes the approach of the adjusters in their they want to probe and ensure that there is no fraud. So it becomes a bit interrogative. So the clients may not like that kind of an interrogative approach to claims. So there can be a pushback from the client side. So there are so many issues like this which add up in the Indian market. So those are some of the problems that we face in the currently in the Indian market.
Thank you, sir, for the points. Now we have heard a lot about the problems and the challenges. Patrick, sir, how do you see technology can help in uh, resolving some of these challenges and help in the claims process entirely?
Okay, if the more the insurance world recognizes that there's a trust issue, then you look to what do people trust in technology. For example, in many emerging markets, WhatsApp is a very common platform that people use every day to communicate, to transact business. Essentially it's a convenient app that really has great penetration pretty much in every market, surprisingly, except the United States and Europe. So if insurance companies are clever, they'll say, well, the people are trusting. Well, take the 800 million people in India, since this is an important market for us to talk about, and in this podcast, in the tier 3, 4, and 5 cities, what technology do they trust and they use every day? Well, it's WhatsApp. Okay, so can we leverage WhatsApp as a tool to not only introduce insurance as concept, but have it available as a tool to help initiate claims or to communicate data to the carrier? You could have the very best website or the very best app, but if people can't access it easily and they're not accustomed to it in their daily life, then the technology becomes a nice tool, but it becomes underused. So the challenge is changing people's outlook from, oh, something happened to me, I need to pull my rupees out from under my pillow and just pay for it, to how can technology, is part of my life, is there part of technology that I can reach out to? And insurance is a great example of that, because insurance is a foundation of economic growth. And make the tool accessible and commonplace, and technology use in insurance will grow, right? But we get back to the elephant. You can't eat the insurance elephant all in one bite. You've got to start nibbling at it in little bites. So the role of technology becomes, what do people use? How can we tag onto it? And how can the insurance world begin to build trust in little bits, bit by bit, and over hundreds of millions of transactions, which could easily be done as things get digitized? Then technological use will grow. And smart carriers will learn to leverage that to build the analog customer service. It's a funny thing. Great technology leveraged well makes face-to-face discussions much easier.
That's good to know what are the things happening and how you are thinking of simplifying claims by just a click of WhatsApp. Hari sir, last year we have listened to live telecast from our honorable chairman, where he told that uh, in India we have only 0.1% of the claims digitized, and like in medical field we have evidence based medical treatments. Now we have to, in the insurance industry as well, we have to go with the data driven insurance industry. So what do you think regarding the digitization of claims in India, and what is how can you see the role of regulator in this?
Yeah, regulator is working with the stakeholders for various initiatives in respect of claims digitization, the claims database, so that the insurers can share data, the national health records digitization, and policies digitization. So when the Bima Sugam platform comes in, then there will be the policy records will be available to all, so that that gets digitized. So all sorts of digitization initiatives are being driven by the regulator. And the other aspect is to bring the hospitals. It is not just the insurance companies getting digitized. There are other stakeholders like hospitals, third-party administrators. So all of them have to come within a common platform or common application for this to succeed. Currently, as we see, there are a lot of moving parts, because the people are operating in different systems. TPS have their system, insurers have their own systems and hospitals are having their own systems. And a lot of time there is no smooth movement of a case from the hospital point till the insurer and back, or to the TPA and back. All these things are happening in a physical form or in emails. So once a comprehensive platform for handling health claims is set up in the future, some of these issues of velocity of process will be addressed. Currently, the cashless approvals are supposed to take place within 30 minutes, but then sometimes it takes much more than that. It takes hours, causing the patients to anxiously wait in the hospital after they have been discharged, waiting for the approvals to come, or at the time of getting admission, waiting for the approvals to come so that they can get admitted using cashless treatment. All those things can be significantly reduced with the application of digitization. I hope something on these lines the IRDA would be driving and would be getting implemented in the near future.
Thank you, Hari sir. And the you so we have been waiting to hear about your favorite topic. What do you think about the digitization of the commercial claims?
Is that question to me, Hitesh?
Yes, the question is
Okay.
to both of you, because I have seen the post, especially where we have seen a lot of things about commercial insurance claims from both of you.
Yeah, I'll jump in. Well, first, I'm going to add a little something to what Hari said for what regulators can do. We all know there's a program in India that can deal with hundreds of millions of people if we improve acceptance and efficiency. That's Ayushman, and I'm only going to mention that. There is so much promise that we can get from an existing system that if we just improve trust in that, things will get better. But on to commercial claims. The interrogatory comment, Hari, that you made is a very good one. Claims happen, and then the carriers are suspicious, and the customers are fearful. They're fearful that their claim will be perceived as being spurious or something else. How do we build reliability and trust in the data that exists in that relationship? It really starts at the underwriting of the claim, where the customer has proven insurability, has proven ownership, has proven a business is in place. Why does that customer need to prove that all again when a claim happens? Prove the claim happens, the facts of the loss, and move along. How do we break that suspicion model that exists there? Because you could digitize and improve the process. And Hari's point's great. We've got two sides of it. We've got the expense side of improvement with paperwork, and then we've got the claim adjudication, for estimates and such. How do you break that that environment of mistrust between the insureds and the carriers? And I think it's just going to take a smart carrier who begins to capture and recapture data early in the relationship of a policy, where there's dynamic underwriting, where the customer is providing financial data regularly, not to do anything except to maintain the perceived legitimacy of their business, so that if a claim happens, God forbid, this 48 documents don't have to be shared, because the carrier says, yes, we know this customer. There's a trust between the customer, the broker, and the carrier. And all we need to focus on is getting the customer back in business through resolving the claim, right? And we've got all the parties want to do it, but each one of them, as Hari said, have a different system. So let's make the data capture more agnostic. Let's democratize how we're doing it. And let's build that trust. And we keep saying trust. For businesses, I'm saying it's a financial and administrative trust that needs to be built. So let's tackle the environment first and the technology second. So that's my outlook on it.
Yeah, to add to what Patrick has already said, he has already covered fair bit of ground on this. So I have very little to add to that. A couple of points is claims. Many a times what is happening is there is underwriting at the time of claim in the Indian market. So which is quite sad, and it shouldn't be happening. The claims outcome depends on proper underwriting that has been done while accepting the risk. So many times the underwriting is done in a hurry, or questions are not asked, or the coverage is not properly understood by the insured, and the insurer may be taking the risk based on limited information, just to conclude the sale. So there is a lot of gap in understanding between the parties at the time of acceptance, which then flows into claims. At the time of claim, these unresolved issues creep up. They will always. So there is no other way about it. So the main issue in terms of commercial claims, as I observe in the Indian market, is the lack of underwriting being done properly at the time of acceptance. That is number one. Number two, there is a lot of knowledge deficit that is all round. I mean, on the part of the carriers themselves, then the intermediaries and the insureds and other loss adjusters. I have been writing very extensively on this topic on various policies. The common understanding of policies, what it means to achieve, those are not clearly understood. So what happens is, when you don't understand the philosophy of a policy, what it seeks to achieve, how it seeks to benefit the insured, then you have to, once you have understood that, then you channel the claim in that direction by asking for documents and evidence, which is leading to that outcome. So this is not what is happening at the time of many commercial claims. They ask for a lot of documents which may or may not be relevant. Now, if you ask for so many documents, there will be some document which will come up with some adverse implication. Then you get into that, then it leads to some other thing, and the claim eventually gets stuck. So you don't have to, uncover everything and lift every stone and look underneath as to what is there. So there has to be moderation. You have to see how you can take the claim forward, what is important, what is not important, how the claim can be taken to its logical conclusion. So once this kind of mechanism is put in place, then commercial claims, disputes, and lack of trust can be addressed to a large extent. And my last point is, in case of commercial claims, the dispute resolution mechanisms in India remain very weak. The consumer protection courts are slow. Judgment will take a lot of time, maybe years. And if it gets appealed against, it goes up to High Court, then Supreme Court. It might take a decade or even more. So by that time, the insured gets a favorable decision from the court. Of course, he gets the claim with interest from the date of loss. Most of the time, interest is also awarded. But then that is not the purpose of the claim. The claim money has to be received at the time when it is needed, not after 10 years with interest, or that is not the purpose of an insurance policy or underwriting at all. So there has to be a mechanism for speedy resolution. An alternate dispute resolution mechanism should be there in place in the market, where instead of going to court and fighting the case, there can be a permanent council of arbitration by industry experts who can give judgment on the admissibility as well as on the quantum of claim, so that these disputes can be resolved. Now that kind of vacuum is there. Now the personal lines claims have an ombudsman mechanism, but similar mechanism doesn't exist for commercial claims. This is one of the lacunae I find in the commercial claim space in India.
And till the time customer gets the claim, the loss of business is already there. So it's
Precisely. Yeah, that
so
is the issue. See, again, I reiterate that point that insurance claim has to be settled at a certain time. So this is insurance claim is a time sensitive thing. You can't be settling, getting into a dispute, going to a court, and then after a long time you settle. Then that purpose of the claim itself is defeated, because he might suffer other uninsured losses also because of this insurance claim not coming through.
true, sir. So the and I would like to, as you have correctly mentioned, that policyholders have a lack of knowledge regarding their policy. So, what advice both of you want to give to all the policyholders across the globe whenever they purchase an insurance policy?
Well, if we accept that insurance is purchased either because there's a mortgage company or some other requirement, or it's a mandate by the government, or maybe it's your relationships with major suppliers, look how insurance policies are crafted, and work from the customer backwards. For example, and I'm not entirely sure how policies are crafted in India, but if you look at many policies, there's a section called policy conditions that really talk about the primary requirements for each of the parties to the contract. And if we look at building that part from how is a claim going to be handled, and keep it basic and something that people can comply with. For example, they need to show the property that's damaged. They need to report promptly. Receipts for repairs have to be made available. They have to participate if there's subrogation against a negligent party. Keep it simple. If we look at policies now, they've evolved, and Hari's writing over time has shown me that India is no different than the US. Insurance companies start with a basic policy, and then slowly over time, from claim experience, exclusions are added, and it becomes a defense contract versus a mutual benefit contract, where the insurance company has more knowledge, more resources available to build the contract, where, all right, we're not going to do this, we're not going to do that. Oh, that happened, we're not going to. Well, can we change that outlook to what can we do and what do we need to do immediately for a claim, as opposed to all of the barriers that we put in front of customers who don't have the resources after a claim to pursue it. And insurance companies can simply repudiate a claim and say, there, we're repudiating it, come at us. We'll see you 10 years from now, as Hari's just said. That's an incorrect way to approach business, because what makes a retention and a customer satisfaction stronger than resolving a claim? And what's more important than getting money on the street after an event happens? There's millions of businesses in India, all opportunities for insurance companies to do well and to serve customers well. So that's the biggest piece I say. Let's work from the customer backwards. Build the policy from what has to happen after a claim. Don't put all the barriers up as a primary defense against people filing claims and utilizing the business. And insurance carriers will be surprised at how much their business will grow, not how much money they might lose from having a vibrant claim environment.
Hari sir, what what is the advice you want to give to the policyholders so that
Yeah, see, the point about buying correctly cannot be overstated. Uh, the insurance buyers should be carefully buying, because particularly commercial insurances, because commercial insurance, as Patrick has said, it has become more and more exclusion driven and conditions driven, because there has been a lot of claims, and there has been court cases, case laws. So to circumvent these case laws and to ensure that the exclusions operate in the manner they are supposed to operate, the exclusions are being reworded, or more exclusions are being added. So the policies are becoming more and more complex. So it's very important to understand what policy is, and what it seeks to cover, and the customer should understand whether he qualifies for the policy or not, because there are a lot of conditions precedent, conditions subsequent, which the insured has to fulfill before he gets a claim. So is he in a position to do that? So these questions are to be asked. The other day, I was involved in a port and terminal operators liability policy placement. There was a condition in the policy which said that the subcontractors engaged by the insured should maintain their own liability insurance, and the insured's policy will operate on an excess basis, or will not cover whatever the subcontractor's insurance covers. Now, I had to request the underwriter to modify it, because in Indian context, it is very difficult to get subcontractors to take insurance, and also to ensure that they have insurance in place which is good enough to operate. So it is very important to understand what the preconditions are, and then appropriately tailor your insurance programs.
So thank you, Patrick sir and Hari sir, for the advice, and I think all the listeners and viewers have taken this advice, and they'll definitely look after these points. So the one last thing I would like to ask, then we'll ask the viewers to ask their questions. What kind of collaborations do you see happening in the future between international and Indian insurance market?
Well, from my aspect, I'm somewhat involved in it now. If we look across the spectrum of insurance products globally, the complexity goes from non-complex to very complex. So getting a quick collaboration between international and Indian markets is, do we reach for the complex, the large commercial arrangements, or do we look from, let's build a groundswell of understanding and penetration of insurance amongst the population? Do we work from a personal lines approach to build insurance as an accepted principle of regular economic markets in India? Or do we focus simply on the top of the pyramid where the large brokers are dealing with the companies? I think there's some of each, but if we are leveraging all the technology that's available globally, and if we work on building digital products that are easy entry for the regular persons, we're going to build, well, probably a little bit slowly, we'll build a groundswell of understanding of insurance in the market. And the more we can build the smaller policies, the smaller claims, and it becomes an integral part of the economy, instead of if you have something happen in your house and you're used to paying it out of pocket, let's make insurance part of what is expected in the market, and do it not only from the big commercial businesses down, but from the regular, it's tens and tens of millions of people. It will become a much more accepted part of the Indian economy. So that's where I see the collaborations. And I know the government is getting more interested in outside investment and outside involvement of foreign entities and foreign persons. So let's continue that. But again, let's not try to eat the whole beast at once. Let's build it slowly and make it part of the Indian culture.
Hari sir, what are your viewpoints on this?
See, the way in which insurance is transacted is very similar across the world. The policies are similar, terms and conditions are broadly similar. There will be country-specific differences in terms of coverage, depending on the legal structure or the other local conditions. But by and large, insurance is transacted in a similar fashion across the world. So there are best practices which are available in other markets that India can borrow from. Uh, so I believe currently the adoption of technologies is low because people are not used to such technologies or getting, even if the insurance company implements something, it can be of use if the claimants or the insureds use such applications. So if the insurance company has a app which can be used for some claims registration and all that, the insured should be willing to go to use the app and register the claim. If the adoption is not there, offtake is not there, then those things may not succeed. These adoption of these technologies will take time. The other mature markets are ahead of us, India, in terms of the technology adoption. And going forward, there will be a lot of technologies which will be coming in, including AI, which is the hot topic as of now. Companies have already started trialing new things around that. India has not started on that, but slowly all those things will come into India at some point or the other.
Thank you, Hari sir. Now, I would like to ask all the viewers and listeners to send your questions through LinkedIn DM so that I can ask Patrick sir and Hari sir. This is once in a lifetime moment for us that all both the elephants are here in one screen and we can ask them. So we have a question: how is digitalization altering insurance claim settlement on the ground level?
Well, I know for a fact that it's not as simple as flipping a switch. But if providers have access to a simple and or uniform system where they know they can provide service and through API or other types of digital methods can get their claims reimbursed to them, it will build acceptance by the providers in welcoming insurance customers or encouraging people to get insurance. And again, I go back to Ayushman. If that system alone can be made more trusting for providers to get reimbursed, that will help cause an explosion of digital acceptance from the population, because now we're dealing with hundreds of millions of persons who are eligible for that type of a cover. So let's start with something that exists, build the trust in it. And I know there are a lot of companies that are building digital claims. We've got Feed MAI and we've got other types of businesses that are building digital platforms. So we can fix what we've got, and that will help build the new things.
So Hari sir, someone had asked a question. I think it will be very relevant to ask it to you. Will interim payment released immediately after initial survey report or even an individual understanding of loss from an insurance company perspective be of any use to commercial customers, or any other solution can be suggested for a faster resolution?
See, there is a system called on-account payment. I believe the question is in the context of commercial claims, particularly property claims or marine claims, where there is a provision for on-account payment. Now, on-account payment is similar to the interim payment which is being asked here. So what the provision is that if there is a claim and the admissibility of the claim is clearly established, then the insurance company can consider an interim payment up to 75% of the assessed loss. This is usually discretionary on the part of the insurance company. So it's not, some policies may have it included as a contractual condition, but most of the time it is not a contractual requirement, and it will be at the option of the insurance company whether they want to do it or not. But I believe as a customer-friendly initiative, the insurance companies on their own should include it in all the property and marine policies. And once the cause of loss is clearly established, the on-account payment equal to the market value assessment should be immediately released. There is no reason why you should hold that claim pending for want of bills and other documents when the cause of loss is very clear. You can make a provisional assessment based on available information and release on-account payment. After all, you have determined that you are liable for the loss, right? So this is something which is a customer-friendly initiative which the insurers must be doing. And if it is a loss which takes a lot of time to repair, reinstate the property, say 12 months or 15 months, then immediate release of on-account payment helps the insured to a large extent.
So thank you, Hari sir. Somebody has asked that at times when we are trying to increase the penetration, do you think fraud detection is even necessary to avoid a few fraudsters? Are we not scaring off a lot of genuine claimants?
I will
Well,
take this, Patrick.
go ahead, Hari.
Yeah. See, I mean, it is. I don't think it is the right approach to say that okay, let us forget about a few frauds happening here and there, and so that we can increase the penetration by ignoring it. See, nowadays fraud detection has improved considerably. Many insurers are using digital tools to detect fraud. For instance, some of the companies have tools where there are something like 25 parameters set in the system. So suppose if there is a close proximity, the claim has happened within 15 days of taking the policy, or the claim has occurred from a suspicious location, or at very odd hours, say it has happened after midnight. So some of these points, which are likely, flags for fraud, are used to detect such suspected fraudulent claims, and they only get investigated. So the rest of the claims go through. It's not that a lot of people are put to inconvenience because of fraud. This is a smart way of handling fraudulent activity. And fraud, if you leave it unchecked, what will happen? It will sustain itself. It will only increase. It will magnify. So what happens is the cost of insurance will go up because you have to cover the cost of fraud also. So the honest customers will have to pay still higher premiums to accommodate the fraudulent claims that have to be settled by the insurance company. And this will be counterproductive for insurance penetration because lesser people will then take insurance. So this is not a solution. We should be very clinical about fraud. We have to nip it in the bud and reduce it to the extent possible. And I am of the opinion that insurance companies are slightly lenient when it comes to fraud, because they don't go and register complaints with the police and have these fraudsters prosecuted. The maximum they do is they just repudiate the claim, and cancel the policy. That is not the end of it. If somebody has defrauded an insurance company, you have to file an FIR. You have to ensure that the full force of the law weighs on him and he is prosecuted. Then only the frauds will stop. So insurance frauds should not be taken lightly, and insurance companies have to play a significant role in reducing it.
So the even I had a question in my mind regarding the digitization of insurance claims. So usually, what in terms of individual insurance claims, we see generally the frauds happen when there is a delay in claim. So, what do you see if we can showcase a claim live to the underwriter, claims underwriter? Would it decrease the number of frauds happening in India?
Well, transparency is the best defense against fraud. Transparency in acquisition of the policy, transparency in the loss facts, transparency in handling. And transparency is a big piece that is missing not only in India but elsewhere. The customer waits in the dark while the carrier does its work to determine if there's underwriting, binding the policy, accepting the claim, adjudicating the claim. The more it's made uniform and transparent, and those data are kept in a manner that across the whole spectrum of claim customers and insurance customers, by the weight of large numbers alone, it's going to reduce the prevalence of fraud, and it's going to increase the reliability of the data that are used. So until we get transparency so that it helps with customer education, again, I don't want to underestimate that, Hitesh. Your point's well taken. And do carriers, should they make a decision of what claims need additional scrutiny? Do you look at every 30,000 rupee health claim the same as you look at a significant health claim, 1 or 2 lakhs? Does it make sense to look at every claim with the same weight of fraud detection, or do you allow, as Harry said, background AI start to sort that out over time? So let's build on transparency, and that helps educate, and then let's decide what is a significant size claim to make sure that there is a detection of fraud. So in time, the weight of data alone is going to help us reduce the frequency of fraud.
So, thank you, Patrick sir, for the inputs, and thank you, Hari sir, for your inputs on the claims and the viewpoint of showing us the point of view of regulator in the Indian insurance industry as well. So this and thank you to all the listeners and viewers across the channels to listen to us. And this is our first episode of Policy Pulse Plus, where we wanted to increase the insurance awareness. And generally, I want to increase the insurance awareness in to the millennials, because they don't understand insurance, and that's why I've even written a book on insuring the future, where I've done the analogy of insurance with the social social media handles which millennials use. One last question, Patrick sir and Hari sir. Aman has asked us, why can't claim settlement become as important as insurance sales for the insurance company? What could be the recommended solution, considering the huge unclaimed amount they have, and they wait till someone claims it? Can't they find the holder's location and try to settle it? I think it's related to life insurance claims. So please.
Well, I can tell you a direct answer. There's many answers to that question, but in the environment that we're in now, telematics becomes a means of, well, you're driving with your smartphone, and there are many apps available that can detect when a motor accident has occurred or some motor event. So the insurance company can reach out immediately if something like that happens, where the customer is not having to initiate the contact. And that's a piece that's starting to get acceptance in more mature insurance markets. But for the demographic that we're focusing on for this podcast, uh, a a millennial that has a smart device should ask or could ask that question of their motor carrier: if I have this app, is there telematics that are going to help me get past having to do something I'm not accustomed to? Most people who have claims have never had a claim. So if the carrier has a tool that's reliable and they can reach out immediately after an event just to find out if they're well or whatever, I think that's a great start. And the technology exists. It's not complicated. It's not even 2020 technology. It's more like 2015. So I think that's a good start for insurance carriers, even in the Indian market, because there's a lot of smart insurance carriers in the Indian market.
Hari sir, what is your point of view on this?
Well, see, currently the approach has to change. Claims has to be seen as a tool to achieve more penetration of insurance in the market, and that's the way it has to be. I mean, unclaimed amount should not be seen as investment float, which can be sort of used for better returns. So the approach should be, how can we find claimants and ensure that the claim reaches them on time? I mean, claim well settled and claim received on time. That is the best way to enhance penetration. There are many policies, embedded policies, which are sold, or attachment policies. So bank loan-based policies are there. Many people don't know that they have insurance. So at the time of floods and all that, they are affected. They have policies, but since it has been taken through a bank or some embedded arrangement, they don't immediately recall. And the claimants may not come and put a claim. But then why should the insurance companies wait for somebody to come and lodge a claim? If they know that in a particular location there has been flood, and they have customers who are impacted by the flood, using technology, you can find out whether there has been claims or not. You can yourself go to them and give them the claims. You don't have to wait for the claimant to come to you and claim. So some of these things may not, impact the bottom line of the insurance company that much, but it will give a enormous amount of goodwill for the insurance market, insurance company in general, and people will really appreciate and come forward to taking insurance.
I think we have to take a dual approach. On the technological side, we need the best and advanced technology. On the other side, we need the humility which was there and at the time of inception of insurance, and how insurance was started. Because even when I did my uh, masters in insurance, even my teachers told me that they were working in the PSUs in life insurance, LIC, and at the time of claim they used to go by bicycle to 20, 30, 50, 100 kilometers and give that one check to the family of that insured, and that is the thing which helped them to serve the people. And this is how the insurance was one of the noblest job in the entire globe. So the I think this could be the approach from my limited knowledge. And thank you, Patrick sir and Hari sir, for joining us today on this podcast. We'll keep on coming up with a lot of episodes on insurance, and we'll definitely try to increase the insurance awareness in the country, especially among the millennials, because uh, after 2 3 years the decision makers will be millennials, and they need to understand insurance and the in their own terms. So this is what we want to bring in. And thank you once again to both the guests, and thank you all the listeners and all the viewers for being online. Thank you everyone.
Hitesh, thank you so
Thank you.
much for being a positive force in the Indian insurance market. It's a very important. You're being an important model for the demographic of which you speak. So I appreciate you inviting me here. And Hari, it was absolutely a pleasure, sir, participating with you. I learn from you every day.
Thank you, Patrick. Thanks, Hitesh, for inviting me.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone. Thank you.